Alright, folks, so we're back for another one of our little Monday recorded episodes. As kind of a follow-up, and also because it's still going on, we're going to discuss the whole Hasbro thing and how things are going with that following the whole OGL debacle. And I just realized if you fuck around with Blaze's color scheme, she looks like fucking Elisa Maza from Gargoyles. That's kind of fucked up.
That's different.
You're right.
Okay. Go for it, man.
Now you start, man. You've been paying even more attention to this than I have, so let's let you start.
Okay, well, let's start with the basics. Is that at this point, Hasbro, aka Wizards, have put at least part of the rules in the Creative Commons, and you can find a million different videos talking about that.
Yeah,
the pros and cons and all of that. And if you're interested, definitely check it out. I'd say it's a PR move.
That's
primarily.
It's what it feels like to me, although there may be some pressure from Hasbro for them to fix that issue.
They don't care really about 5th edition. They just want people to shut up.
Well, that's kind of what I mean.
That's really what this move is, because they're not going to put their new system in the Creative Commons.
No, of course.
That's not happening.
They're going to try and relegate that all to D&D 1 like we talked about before.
Quite honestly, they haven't done it with a bunch of the rest of their stuff.
Very
They
true.
should, if this was anything meaningful, they would put everything from the original version of D&D all the way up to 4th and 5th edition out there. But 4th's not under anything people can work with.
Not really,
5th
no.
is kind of at this point. But you got 3rd, you got AD&D, you got AD&D 2nd edition, basic, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
If that was all dropped into the Creative Commons, I would be like, well, that's surprising and a good move. But
this does really feel just like a placation move.
They need people to shut up so the movie does well. Or okay.
Which I don't think is going to do that well, but we can talk about that too, given how much continued backlash there has been even after that announcement.
And that's kind of the situation we find ourselves at this point. At least so much in where they have gotten to.
Well, and that's just Wizards. This whole Hasbro issue is a separate thing, technically.
And then you have the fact that it is impossible to rebuild. Oh gosh, pardon me.
That's all right.
Trust, and that's a situation that they find themselves in where they need to rebuild trust, and I don't see that happening.
Not after as blatant as they were with that last attempt to do IP and cash grabs.
I just do not see that becoming a thing that recovers anytime soon. But hey, again, like I've said previously, they are more interested in capturing the wells so that they can recreate a situation like Blizzard did with Diablo Immortal.
I won't even get into that again.
They don't care about the main part of their market. They only care about getting people with deep wallets. And that's why...
or the ones, let's be honest, they don't have deep wallets, but they just waste all the money they do have.
Well, deep spending habits, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The moves, as far as I'm concerned, are wholly disingenuous. They care nothing really about anything but shutting people up at this point. And it's fairly easy to tell. And you can see just how bad a lot of people reacted to it.
Very.
And, well, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think Hasbro, especially the people that they have working with them right now,
Microsoft idiots,
expected this kind of pushback. And you can kind of understand that, but
knowing where their main let's call the conspirators of this disaster came from, I'm pretty sure they weren't expecting any pushback. They worked at Microsoft all that time, pushing this kind of crap on the regular.
It'd be definitely interesting to see where things go, because I'm sitting there going, well, there are people calling for the jobs and of people that were in charge of this stupid move.
Yeah, they won't get them, but still.
I'm of the mind of it'd be interesting to see where it goes. I doubt that those people will get fired.
No, they're too important to the company at this point.
But it would be really funny.
Oh, it'd be fucking hilarious.
So, all said and done, not a lot of confidence there, but we can always see what happens.
And that's just on the Wizards front. Then there's the whole Hasbro ongoing issue. The losses, the stock issue, the massive change in fucking focus.
Well, it was a massive PR disaster. Let's be perfectly.
And that's considering that Hasbro had already seen some really ugly profit losses before this.
Well, and I would make a point of pointing out that I can recall correctly, Wizards was the main profit generator.
It was one of them, yeah.
For
one of, I think they said about 3.
Hasbro. Mm-hmm. So it was D&D, Magic, and something else.
It was something.
It was Peppa Pig.
Well, I thought it was like something else, but Peppa Pig's the new one they're focusing on now.
I mean,
they are literally refocusing their entire strategy around Peppa fucking Pig. Some weird, meaningless kids show.
It makes a lot of money, though.
It's just a weird strategy, though, to focus everything on that.
Considering the losses they've taken in a lot of their key demos, let's be perfectly honest. When Hasbro started forcing G.I. Joe fans at events to have to give their pronouns before they could ask questions,
were they actually doing that?
Yes.
You gotta remember, here's the thing. I don't pay attention to events, conventions, and none of that shit. I'm looking at the products, and IDW's allowance to license the G.I. Joe comics had done more than enough damage, in my opinion, that all I ever did with G.I. Joe anymore is collect some of the figures here and there.
Well, let me finish. That they did this at events dealing with G.I. Joe releases for figures and stuff, and let's face it, that was a big money maker with G.I. Joe. And they're doing it to a lot of people who are ex-military, older, male, aren't particularly interested in a lot of this.
Well, we don't want to hear about that shit. We hear enough of it in our day-to-day lives, and it doesn't make sense to most of us.
Let's just be perfectly honest. Most of it is for a tiny group of people to get off on their fetish.
It's meaningless crap to fucking appeal to a demographic that barely fucking exists, let alone in that hobby.
So Hasbro has been burning its bridges on a whole lot of fronts. And this is just one of the latest. They have been slow burning everything from Transformers to G.I. Joe to Magic the Gathering to now D&D for the last couple of years. And I'm being generous by saying the last couple of years, because it's been a lot longer than that.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But this is a neat situation where they're starting to see a lot of their profits sink. And the last area they needed to sink in is the one area
where they were actually making some money, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what Hasbro does. We already know that they're shopping around their movie studio.
Yeah, they're literally trying to get somebody to buy the studio that's making that D&D movie. It hasn't even come out yet.
And that they've already they're planning to, or they've already laid off about 1,000 workers.
1,500, actually, last I heard.
Oh, it was actually larger than that? Wow. So we got some interesting situations and fallouts from it. And honestly, if you're a fan of any of these properties, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to say this. It's probably better if these larger companies collapse. They have to get rid of all of these properties.
Maybe somebody that gives a shit buys the property.
And there's a chance of them going to smaller companies that are willing to take the chance and do the work to get people to actually care.
I mean, you can always hope anyway.
Because right now we're just ending up in a situation where you got a bunch of bloated companies IP hoarding.
Yeah.
And that's not good. I mean, let's just look at Hasbro's track record. They have been doing a piss poor job with a lot of their franchises, bleeding them dry, and not looking at the future. And that's technically partly due to a law in the United States.
Oh, God.
But it's also created a lot of people who really only think about, how do I get profits up to look good for my next job?
Yeah, it's all about the shareholders and the executives looking for their next payout and actually not giving a fuck about the actual company that they work in or with.
So you're perpetuating this situation. So there's that. Then we have the orc license. I think Cobalt's already basically backtracked with its whole creating a separate system.
I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
I heard that they basically were just making a 5th edition thing at this point. But, I mean, if you're a 5th edition fan, that's a good area for you to move.
I guess, yeah.
Especially with, well, let's face it, Wizards and Hasbro moving to 6th edition probably this year or next.
Yeah, because it means the 5e stuff will at least be able to do its own thing again.
So you'll be able to go over there. The orc license seems to be okay, but we're still waiting for an official draft to come out and then be able to look.
And that's gonna take time.
I definitely look for morality clauses. Those are always bad.
Although after the backlash Wizards got from it, I doubt Paizo's gonna pull it.
Well, you have to look in two areas. If you're looking at an OGL like the orc, always check the SRD as well, because the SRD is a separate thing.
You gotta tell people what the SRD is, dude.
System reference document. That's usually put out in conjunction. So the OGL is basically an open gaming license, aka this is a thing that you have if you want people to use your material to make things and sell it and or share it. And it gets people to know more about your system. In a way, it's kind of like free market.
And in that regard, what is the SRD?
And the SRD is the system reference document. So if you want people to use your stuff, most of the time you're not going to require them to buy a copy of your book.
Right.
What you're going to do is you're going to put a limited amount of your rules and systems. And it also, technically, you could put setting info if you want that to be shared.
Yeah.
In this document. And basically, they would go, okay, well, we have the Open Gaming license that lets you be able to use this, and this is the stuff that you're allowed to use with that, in conjunction with that. So, traditionally, Wizards has done this, but they cut things out, so you didn't get a complete thing. So, like, the fighter would have one fighter path that they could get, or be used in other people's creations, blah, blah, blah. So that's usually what it is, but you can also look, because SRDs can also put other requirements on their use. So it's always good to check those, because sometimes they can have a morality clause. And that always sounds good to people until someone just doesn't like you, and they can
morality
go, I just
clause
don't like you.
Is never a good idea, because it's just an open excuse to fuck somebody over.
A good example of this for people is the morality clause with the the licensing agreement from Montcook Games, where effectively the morality clause is, anything I don't like.
Brilliant.
And that's generally what most morality clauses are. So one thing I always suggest is no matter what your stance is on certain things, you don't want it there, because if it is, it's going to get used as a weapon against you.
It's always a backdoor to just bully somebody in this shit. That's
It's
literally
just like
all
politics.
it is.
Never have a law passed against people you don't like, you don't plan on having used against you.
Because then, yeah, they're just going to use it against you later.
Because they're eventually going to get some upper hand on you, and they're going to beat you with it. So, it's an interesting situation. I'm hoping it sparks people to continue on with making their own systems, as opposed to simply continuing the trend of shackling themselves to the D20 system.
I mean, if nothing else, it lit a fire under Paizo's ass, and there's still a couple other companies who are not using the OGL anymore, so...
Oh, yeah. And there are definitely good companies out there that do a bunch of other things. And I hope it inspires people to go out and create their own things, as opposed to simply making another derivative D20.
I know.
A major problem with the hobby as a whole being shackled to that. But that's another topic for another time. But that's where we find ourselves. It's a strangely low information period. There's a lot has been going on. Just most of it's been behind doors, or it's not really covered enough to really go on much about. If you know what I'm saying.
I mean, it's something that can happen with that at any given time. Because a lot of companies don't want this stuff getting aired before they've had a chance to deal with it, because then it just has the potential to make them look really terrible, which a lot of them are.
And again, I could definitely go and do a video talking about a number of different systems, but there would have to be some desire for that. Because there is a ton of different gaming systems out there, and I hope people go and discover more of them. Give more stuff a try.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think that's most of everything there, honestly.
Is it?
It's been really slow. I mean, people are still not, at least on Twitter, not being very trusting of Hasbro and Wizards.
Well, by and large, that seems to be all over the internet, not just Twitter.
But we have to.
I mean, yeah, your mainstream media outlets are still going to sing the praises because Hasbro was giving them, PR.
That's not what I was going to say. We still have to remember the greater audience in the hobby don't even really know this was going on.
I don't know. I think it got widespread enough that a lot of them did.
I'd say that a slightly higher percentage than normal did, but probably not a very big one. But it's enough that it hurt Wizards. But overall, we've almost covered everything that's happened. There's not a lot that's come out about the Orc right now. Paizo sold off about 8 months worth of product.
Yeah, that was nuts.
So I'm guessing they're probably seeing a fairly large jump. I mean, even in our local gaming store.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff was kind of vanishing.
I noticed everything but like the Beastry 2 was gone. So it's interesting, but there's not a lot of talk on it right now because, let's be honest, Hasbro and Wizards want to bury it.
And you know what? No matter how hard they try, they're never going to completely bury it. It's why there's so much talk about not trusting them now. They can't just sweep this bullshit under the rug again.
No, but they can be quiet, which is probably the best move for them right now.
Yeah, they need to shut the fuck up. And they need to go in and start clearing house of motherfuckers that are incapable of shutting the fuck up.
But, yeah, that is pretty much it, because we haven't really got much more news about the Orc
No, we haven't heard
all
much
I've
of that
heard
yet.
is that
And it takes time to draft shit too, so.
Cobalt is basically kind of just doubling back and making a 5th edition derivative. Yeah, that's pretty much everything, oddly enough. I've been looking, and I have not found a huge amount of new information.
Well, that's fine. You know, we can only... we ain't connected and none of that bullshit, so we can only give what we got. But...
let's see, yeah, that's about
that all you got?
All right. Moment.
Well, then that'll be it for us today, folks. Hopefully you enjoy this, and we will still continue doing these. We just have to scrounge around for things that we actually think are worthy of giving enough of a fuck about to talk about. And some days that's harder than others. But for now, we're out of here. Have a great fucking day.